Hi, this is Jeffrey Manu, and welcome to episode 5 of the Builders and Thinkers show. First of all, I'd just really like to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has bought the dominant force over this last week. I'm really, really grateful. It's really nice to, create something, produce something, and find out that people actually like it. It's great. I already said this online, but I met this guy, and his name is Sean. Sean, thank you in advance. I met him at a fintech event. I told him about the book, and I was actually even gonna give him a free copy, but he immediately took his phone and went on Amazon and bought the book. And I met him in his office last week, and he had the book, right there. He was taking notes. He was doing exercises and everything, and it's really good to know that people can see the value in something that you create. So shout out to people like Sean. Shout out to all those who I don't know personally, but have bought the book and are enjoying it, and even those who do, who I do know. And thank you guys, thank you guys. Yeah, also thank you guys for all those who have downloaded Growing Startup and are getting value for it. Thank you. We're going to be creating more features. One thing that I found out is that a lot of people wanted kind of like templates for growth. So you're growing a SaaS startup, you're growing, your website, and you just really want the step by step process that you can just click, edit, and go. So look out for that. Um, so it's Friday, and and of course, online there's a lot of TGIFs and thank God it's Friday and stuff like that. And I I have never really been able to relate with the TGIF crowd. I'm and I didn't know why, but I was reading a book by Dan Kennedy some time ago, and he was talking about management, and he talked about how an entrepreneur, a serious one at that, will never really say thank God it's Friday, because entrepreneurs actually want more time to do more work. If you know that you're creating value and you know that this is impacting the world and impacting your customers and bringing money to your family, and basically this money is going to pay for your next house, your next vacation, expansion, and basically to help you fulfill your calling. It's very difficult to want less time. And part of the reason really is that a lot of people are not doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter if you're an employee or an entrepreneur, but the entrepreneurs who actually hate Mondays as well. But excuse me, a lot of people say that their work is hard or their work is unfulfilling, and usually the reason is that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing the things that God has called them to do. They're not in the place where they should be. So they're in the wrong industry, the wrong department, the wrong place, the wrong city, the wrong state. They probably got the wrong degree. They started the wrong business. They've hired the wrong people, or partnered with the wrong people, or something like that. And it's those things that cause people not to like what they do, and it ends up making work really, really unfulfilling for them. So if you're in that place, what I'd recommend is that find out what you're supposed to be doing, what will actually give you fulfillment and also pay you what you want, and go do that job, go be in that industry. Because in the short term it may look like, oh, I'm just making money here for a little while, but the thing is that in the long term you're just going to live a life of misery, and it's not going to be worth it when you're 50 or 60 or 70, when you could have spent all that time doing something that you like and also making money from it. So that's something to think about. If the thing that you like, you don't really understand how to monetize it, find out who's actually monetizing it and learn from them. There are books and all of these courses and stuff online that you can look at, and that's important. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And the final thing actually that I want to share today is something funny that keeps coming up for me. So I wrote these posts on Reddit about how to get your first 10,000 customers, and basically my journey, how to attract the right leads, how to convert them, and how to grow your business. And it got like a great reception. I mean, for probably an entire week, those posts were the top three or four or so on Reddit under the startups startups subreddit. But it's what's funny that there were some, there are always like mean comments that come up on Twitter and on Reddit and YouTube and so on. And one guy actually, his comment was when he found out that I was Ghanaian and living in the States. He asked if I had an accent, and I wasn't sure if he was trying to be mean or if he was just like joking. So I just responded and said, "Oh yeah, I do have an accent," and I laughed about it. But then there's also like someone else who was trying to be silly. I don't even remember what the person wrote because I don't read comments from people whose opinions don't matter on a particular subject, and that's something that's important that I want you to take. What a lot of people assume that everybody's opinion matters, or every voice should hold the same weight, and it's a problem. It distracts people. It makes people angry when they shouldn't be. It makes people upset when they shouldn't be. And why don't you think about this? Is that have you heard of? There's a lady called Ida Tarbell. Have you heard of her? And it's very likely that 99% of you listening have never heard of Ida Tarbell. But have you heard of John D. Rockefeller? It's very likely that a lot of you have heard of John D. Rockefeller, because John D. Rockefeller was once the richest man in the world. He, paid for the curing of like so many diseases. He was the biggest philanthropist of his time, and all kinds of things. He and Andrew Carnegie and a couple of people, they really did a lot of good for the world. But the reason I bring up Ida Tarbell is that she was probably one of his biggest critics, and yet nobody knows her. And she was criticizing him based on so many different things. But my point is that when you look through like history, right, his impact still remains. The Rockefeller Foundation is still here. Have you heard of the Ida Tarbell Foundation? Have you heard of any great things that Ida Tarbell did? She spent a lot of her time criticizing someone when she probably could have spent that same time doing something that would have impacted the world more. And I don't know what she did. Maybe she she did like great things that nobody knows about. But my point is that when you look through time, like think about your life in like 50-year blocks, there are people who maybe didn't like you in high school, or didn't like you in college, or didn't like you in middle school, whatever it is, right? But those people don't matter, and they haven't determined where your life is today unless you've allowed them to, and that's what's important. Like, don't be distracted. And I remember I remember that I met this entrepreneur, and she was telling me how like the press, and she saw something in Business Insider, and it got her like really really upset. But my thing was that you have to understand that the people who write about you many times are not business people. Like I find it really funny when entrepreneurs get bothered by the press, because the person who's writing is probably really like it's like an English major, or like someone who has nothing to do with like the business that you do, and you're like bothered by that. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But it's important to know that usually people who are writing about you are not even in your industry, and even if they are in your industry, why do their voices matter? Like, you shouldn't let such things bother you. But it's important to know that this is my calling, this is my goal, this is what I'm going to do to impact the world, and then put blindness on and do it. It's not it's not the village that's building your business. You are building your business. You are the one building your career. You're the one doing what you need to do. So, public opinion should be taken with a grain of salt. It doesn't always matter. So, yeah. So this is probably the longest one. Well, it's Friday, so I gave you I gave you extra. Um, Thank you for listening. God bless. Check out growing startup.com/growth. You learn a lot there. If you haven't gone to the Dominant Force book already, go to Amazon. You can get it, The Dominant Force, by Jeffrey Maino, and you find it there. And if you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, questions you want me to answer, email me at jeff@growing startup.com. Thank you. God bless.